start with my talk, which is called More Hearts Than Stars, Smart Charging and Community Funding. And I will give you a little bit of insights into our open source project. But before I get started, I would like to talk a little bit about buttons. So this one is a button from our user interface. You can press it and get confetti. We'll get to this button later. This button, I guess all of you know. So this is a GitHub start button. Every repository has something like has exactly this, and you can click on it to show your support, use it as bookmarking, whatever. And a couple of years ago, GitHub introduced another type of button. This is the sponsor button, where you can also financially contribute to an open source project. I will also come back to this one later. Okay, so the structure of my talk. The talk will be divided into 3 parts. So first thing, I will explain a little bit about EVCC, what it is, what it does, where we come from. Then I will talk a little bit about our community. And last, I will get into the topic of funding, of community funding, and how to run a project like this in a sustainable manner. Okay, so who am I? I'm Michael. I'm a software engineer by profession. I'm a front-end focused guy, I would say. So I like doing stuff on the web, thinking about great user interfaces. In my real job, my day job, whatever, I work on e-commerce, do architecture front-end stuff, also do talks and so. And since 4.5 years, I'm also part of an open source project, which is called EVCC. I'm one of the 3 core team members. And we are on a side quest to make the planet a little bit better by using electricity in a more meaningful and clever way. You can find me on the internet on multiple platforms. I have the same username everywhere. So, okay, let's start. What is EVCC? So EVCC is an open source project. Was started really exactly 5 years ago, I guess. And the primary use case was provide a solution for charging your own EV with self-produced electricity by a PV system, for example. This is the core use case the project had back in the days, and it's up until today still our main goal or main feature. But we've added a couple of other surrounding features since then. And the important part is that we provide a solution that is vendor independent. So if you have a solar system from vendor A and a wall box from vendor B, naturally they don't talk to each other, and you need an additional piece of software to make this work, and this is where we come in. Okay, so how does it work technically? So usually you have some kind of computer in your home. You can buy a Raspberry Pi, a small device, whatever, and install our software on this. The software collects data from different energy meters or talks to your PV inverter, to your battery inverter, if you have also a home battery, for example. We also pull data from the internet, so price forecast data, if there's green energy in specific hours, data sources for this, or even take into account forecasted solar production, for example, so weather-based data. If your electric car has an online API, many of those have one, we can also pull in vehicle information. And our core thing is that we talk to a variety of EV chargers, get the state of the charger, see if the vehicle is connected or not, and control this charger. So we enable the charging when the sun is up, for example. On a software basis, the software is written in Go. We have a small binary that we produce and publish. We also have Docker containers. So if you have some kind of PC running in your home, chances are high you can just add it to this existing machine. So we have a very low footprint. We don't need much resources, and try to play nice with every existing system. So it's your hardware it's running on. It's your data. We don't like cloud and tracking stuff. So this is the core things that are behind our project. Yeah, this use case I mentioned earlier, so our primary use case is controlling your EV charger to match the sun curve you experience in your home, for example. So in hours where there's surplus energy you can't otherwise use in your home, we can enable your charging with the exact level and adjust it throughout the day. So if you start cooking on noon, for example, we may pause the charging and resume after it when enough energy becomes available again. This is how our software looks like. So it's written with web technology mostly. You can see the status of your home. You have a few charging modes. You can select. You see information about your current charge. If your vehicle provides it, you can also see your vehicle's current range at the expected end of the charging session, for example. So a lot of interesting stuff you want to know when charging an electric vehicle. And since last week, we also have an Android and an iOS app in the different stores, so you can also install it from there and get an even cleaner experience from your mobile devices. Another use case, this came last or maybe a little bit earlier year, is that we don't only do solar charging, but also do price or CO2-based charging. So when I mentioned before that there are data sources that tell you when energy from the grid is green. So in the winter, for example, it makes sense to not charge when you plug in, but charge or delay your charging to hours where the wind is blowing, for example. And in the last month, especially in Germany, but I guess in Europe in general, there are also new energy tariffs available where you get billed not a constant energy fee, but an hourly-based energy fee. So you have an incentive to, or you save money when you use your energy in hours where there's surplus energy or where there's lots of energy available, mostly due to renewables. Okay, so this is, I guess you can't read it, but this is a screenshot from our website. So this is a long list of manufacturers we support. So manufacturers that we have built implementations for. So energy meters, PV inverters, battery systems, wall boxes, but also small plug sockets that you can put into your wall, for example, and that can be controlled. Yeah, the list is long. These are only the brands. When we go to a product level, the list would even get longer. So this is our core. So we have our GitHub repository is a large database of how to talk to different devices, and everyone can look at it. Okay, so let's move to the second section, to the community. So how does this work? Who does what? I've looked at the stats in preparation of this talk. So we have over 300 people who have committed at least a single line of code to our core project. This is written in Go and Vue.js. We also have some configuration stuff for different devices. And yeah, with many projects, this is not 300 people who are active all the time. Many people come in, have a problem, have a specific meter installed in their home that we don't support yet, whatever, or that's not acting correctly, and they provide pull requests, and we debug with them, and then their code lands in our project, for example. We also have a documentation project where nearly 100 people have contributed something. Currently, languages are German and English. And as I said earlier, now we have an app in the app stores, and this project is quite new, and already there we have 18 people who fixed some kind of stuff in there, which is quite nice. A thing I was really surprised by was the demand and also the opportunity or the willingness of people to translate our user interface into multiple languages. So we adopted a couple of years ago a service which is called WebLate. So you can that monitors our repository, looks at the translation files. We have the different strings in the UI and provides a web interface where people can say, okay, I speak simple Chinese, and I can translate everything, and then we get a pull request back with the added translations, and we can merge this into our project. And so right now we have 29 languages, and yeah, I'm pretty impressed on how this looks when you just change to Arabic, for example. This is, I guess, the strangest contribution or the most unusual contribution we received. A couple of months ago, after a talk I did, a guy contacted me. He said he's a photographer, he doesn't know programming, he saw my talk, he likes the project, he drives an EV and he wants to promote the topic, and he wants to support open source, but he's not a good documentation writer, coder, whatever. But he's a portrait photographer, if there's something he could do. And so we worked together, and we came up with the concept of community portraits. So in our GitHub forum, in our discussions, we started a poll where people would be willing to be portrayed by a professional photographer, and we got a list of a couple of addresses throughout Germany right now, and he drives to the specific areas and takes time to portray the individual persons. And so we get, he was also at my home, we get quite a broad view of what people are doing with this project. So what problem it solves, why did they install it, why did they maybe ditch a previous system they had installed, for example. And this, I think this turned out quite nice. So we have also material for a lot of more blog posts right now, and it makes the project, I guess, a lot more human. So reviewing GitHub pull requests, for example, is a very technical and sometimes even harsh thing to do. And getting to know the people who are part of the community, who are contributing or helping, I guess is a wonderful idea. Okay, so last part. How does this work financially? As you might have expected, by now there's a lot of work that has to be put in to make a project like this one fly. So writing blog articles, but also maintaining all of the implementations, for example, handling, we get hundreds of issues, of stuff every month, and we have to take time to manage these ones in a good manner. So who are we? So quite early in the process, so Andy is the one who created the initial repository, but throughout the first year, a smaller core group formed around him. I'm part of it, Uli is also part of it. And I guess we complement each other quite well. So I would see ourselves as a cross-functional team. So Uli is a trained electrician, so he knows how cables work, when they has high voltage flowing through them, how to control devices, and especially how not to control devices, what not to do with them, how to read manuals in a proper way, for example. And I'm more of the front-end guy, I would say. So thinking about what is a good way to present a specific feature, or how to not to do a specific feature, for example. And this is, I guess, quite a good team we form there. And so what do we do? So we meet on a regular basis, mostly monthly, and discuss what is going on in the community, what was discussed, what are topics that are getting more prominent, and decide if we would broaden our scope, for example. So a couple of months ago, we started also adding heat pump support. So we have everything to do, every data that we need to efficiently control an electric vehicle charge. The same database can be used to control if a heat pump should be running in the winter or during the day or whatever. And this was a request that came up very frequently, and for months we said, no, this is not part of our core. And now we've decided that we also want to tackle heat production with renewable energy, for example. these are the fun things, but they're also, in a big open source project, also a lot of maintenance, janitor-style things. So, as I said, reading through issues, discussions, managing pull requests, doing bug fixes, releases, but also fun stuff like spreading the word. Like today, I'm standing in front of the stage. I traveled to Berlin. Yeah, this is also part of the things we want to do. And the core thing that we make this happen financially is via GitHub sponsors. So as I said, GitHub introduced this feature 2 or 3 years ago, I guess. The sponsor button, you can enable it as a product, as an organization, or as an individual on GitHub, on your repositories. And we started to tie a feature to the sponsoring. So if you're sponsoring the project financially, you get a sponsor token, and with the sponsor token, you can unlock the support for all EV chargers we have in our code base. When you don't do this, you can control smart switches for small devices, for smaller installations is completely sufficient. But if you want to control an EV charger, you have to have a sponsor token. Except there is a small list of chargers that we would see community friendly, so where the manufacturer is very open to open source. And there's also some companies that do open hardware wall boxes. So wall boxes where you could rebuild your wall box from scratch with stock parts, for example, and get the software it's running. So these are wall boxes that we support without wanting to be sponsored ourselves. And we picked the lowest level, so you can pay $2 a month. And we also added a one-time payment because there are people that say, okay, monthly payment, I'm not a friend of this, I would like to contribute one time, and then we're done with it. We also added this. And for active members of the community, we offer a contributors token. So if you contribute to the project with code, with documentation, with translation, for example, you don't need to pay, but most of our users do both. So yeah. And having said all of this, the code is still 100% open source. So even though some chargers, require a sponsorship, you can look at the code, and yes, if you are a programmer, it should be easy for you to do a build with our sponsor check removed, whatever. But the model is working quite well for us. When you go to our website and scroll down, you see this. We also have a list of companies who found our project and were interested and said, okay, we build wall boxes, we offer also charging solutions, and we like your project, we want it to exist, or maybe they want to add an implementation of their charger and want to put the maintenance to us. So they initially build it and say, okay, can you please support our charger? And they pay a little higher monthly fee, and then they get the opportunity to put a logo on a website. And underneath, you see the individual icons to GitHub profiles. These are all people who opted to pay more than the minimum of $2 a month. So yeah, quite nice. This one, this button we introduced as soon as we added the GitHub sponsoring to our system. This is an additional perk to the sponsor token I mentioned before. You get a button, and you can click this button, and you get digital confetti, and you can celebrate yourself for supporting an open source project or for doing EV charging with solar energy, whatever. And since I think a good open source project also has to be good with stickers, we also provide free stickers for everyone who's financially contributed to our project. So this one is a Blue Sky post from last week, I guess, where someone opened we sent out letters, and he opened his letter, photographed the contents, and thanked us for doing the project and for sending the stickers. From time to time, I do this. So I get the city names and the countries and map them on on the chart because we don't know anything about the people who support us. So we know the GitHub usernames, but GitHub does not give us more information. And with the sticker addresses, we at least get the addresses where we ship something to. And this is the map of our users. As you see, we have the core community is in Germany, but there's also some Denmark, some Benelux countries, Switzerland, Austria, because German-speaking, I guess. But when we zoom out, we also see spots in other places. So Scandinavia, there are a few, Portugal, Greek. I'm always celebrating when there's a new country joining the sticker club. And when you zoom even further out, we get an interesting effect because we send we regularly send stickers to Australia, not Austria, Australia, because I think they have solar and being smart with energy, off-grid use cases that also come up in the discussions a lot of the times are pretty common there. But it's also interesting to see at to look at the empty spots. So we have very little interest from America, for example. We have a few Californians where there's new regulations that encourage smarter energy use. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Okay, so final thoughts. For me, being part of a project is community funding. It feels very nice to be paid to do open source by the users who actually use your system. And zooming a little bit further out from myself perspective, I guess it's also a good fit for a project because now the direction of the project, so the decisions that we make, directions that we want to go, is naturally aligned with the people who are funding this. And in contrast, if you accept VC money, do a startup thing, you have growth targets, whatever, you have to make decisions that not always align with your core user base. And being not dependent on this, I guess, it's quite valuable for us. Yes, so why does it work? I guess it works because our user base are people like us. Most of them have their own home in EV charger, so spending $2 a month, I guess it's something they can afford. But also the software saves them money, so that you can look at the electricity bill at the end of the month and you can calculate your savings, and in many cases it's much higher than you contributed to the project. Yes, and this community funding model does not work for everyone, I guess. So this is a screenshot from a project which is called Pocketbase. It's a backend as a service thing written in Go by one developer, and he has in his FAQ a question: can I donate? And he says, no, you can't donate. He had individual donations prior, and he was uncomfortable with the unspoken expectations. So people paying money to the project and expecting something in return. So now I have a pull request, I paid money, please add this pull request to your code base. And we feel this tension, not always, but sometimes it comes up. But yeah, for our project, I guess it works out fine, but it doesn't have to do for everyone. So last slide. What are things we have to think about or we're thinking about right now? Currently, we only do GitHub sponsors. We regularly get requests to support other ways of, or to add other ways to support the project. We are thinking about what we have to do or what we can do there. The cool thing on GitHub sponsors is that they don't take any fees. So everything user puts in comes out at the other end, and Microsoft, GitHub, whatever, covers the rest, which is quite nice for us and for everyone, I guess. Yeah, and the question with adding another option, do we need some kind of legal entity, whatever? So if you have experience in this area, I would be really very grateful to learn what other models could be. Okay, so with this, I'm not quite sure if we have time for Q&A. Pretty tight, I guess. You can find the slides at my personal on my personal homepage. I've uploaded them there, and thank you.
Well, so CRA, have you thought about whether you're a manufacturer or not?
So the question is if we are a manufacturer. So right now we see ourselves as provider or a community that does open source project, does open source code, but the tension of people who think, okay, now I bought something because they forced me to pay $2 a month. This is a topic that comes up from time to time. So we are in the middle ground of being a community-funded open source project or a vendor of software with all of the strings attached to this. So we are definitely in this gray area, yeah. And quite, up until now, I guess we managed to do it quite well so that people understand.
So the CRA doesn't really think that there's a gray area. You either are or you're not. So they're going to, essentially, that's going to tighten up that boundary. Where you think there's a gray area, the law's going to say no at some point. So,
can you explain the abbreviation? The CRA. Yes.
So the CRA is the Cyber Resilience Act. So you're responsible when you put something on the market. You are responsible for like maintaining it in the long run and for security patches. And when you have a vulnerability, you need to have processes and response to this kind of stuff. So the law, the new European law says you are a manufacturer or an open source stewardship, or so you have different kinds of status, and then so you may belong to the manufacturer side with a lot of obligation against the CRA.
Thank you. Yeah, we should talk offline if you don't have the background.
Just one last question.
Okay. Have you, just on this topic also, but for the next, have you considered maybe joining or bringing your project to a foundation? So, full disclosure, I'm part of the Eclipse Foundation, but there is other many foundations over there. So, have you considered maybe joining a foundation instead of creating your own legal entity?
Or Apache Software Foundation. I'm from Apache Software Foundation.
We're friends, not a problem. But
yeah, we loosely discussed, and I guess I take offers afterwards. No, we should talk about this, what this means, yes.